Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about how to build a successful personal brand. I've had the privilege now of interviewing over 100 multi-million, multi-billion dollar entrepreneurs on the show. I've networked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I've been in the online personal development, coaching, consulting industry for a while. But even across industries, I've seen certain common denominators and patterns. And so today, brought on my good buddy Frankie here. And again, my name is Omar. This is Frankie, and my good buddy Frankie here has consulted for a lot of high-level businesses in the online space, doing 7, 8 figures a year plus. And so he has some really good insight. And so I brought him on today because we're having a great conversation about personal branding and what people do at the 0 to 6 figure level, 6 figure, 7, 8 figure, 9 figure, and beyond level. But we're doing real time that's working. And for those of you just following, this is a part of a 100-day video series challenge where I'm just sharing free value, raw and uncut. My main channel is The Passionate Few, where I have a podcast interviewing the Grant Cardones, PBDs, all these cool entrepreneurs around the world, Top G, working on Tony Robbins, working on Trump. So we got some exciting names coming up on the podcast. So I've learned a thing or two about getting millions of views, building a personal brand, working on my own, and seeing the common denominator. So with that preface, I will let my man Frankie here start asking some great questions about it to help you guys out. So pay attention to the end, and I hope you enjoy.
What's up, guys? So, Omar, thank you for having me here. Yeah, I really wanted to use this space really to ask you a few questions because, like you mentioned, we've seen a lot of growth on different brands and companies that are trying to use their personal brand to either build revenue or just build relationships, connections, network, right? So, I'm curious, specifically for you, what was the thing that led you to make $25,000 a month? Like, what was the thing that made you explode? You were a normal guy, and then you kind of went out there and started interviewing all these cool people.
Yeah, so I didn't have a business when I started, you know.
Okay.
So that's another thing. I kind of did it in reverse. Whereas most people build a business and then a brand, I kind of built a brand and then a business. So it gave me some unique insights. And some of those insights allowed me to get ahead a lot sooner than competition who thought they had to be at X amount of success to build a personal brand. I learned it's just a few simple things done correctly.
And sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, my bad.
What is like? How much have you personally generated from that personal brand?
Oh, multi 7 figures, and we've been a part of multi 8 figure launches. Um, so yeah, I mean, we've been able to generate consistently millions of dollars in terms of top line revenue. Of course, not it's not always all profit, but it doesn't take many multiple 6 figure things to consecutively work to generate significant revenue. But yeah, the what it's personally generated, I find, is directly correlated, to answer your question directly, with the size of the brand, because a lot of times the products don't change, just the prices and leverage do. Like, for example, my first thing I ever sold was coaching and consulting for 2.5K, right? Now if you're a coach or consultant, or agency owner, or own a business or whatever it is, like, you probably have fees in the same 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, 5K, like whatever, if you're just starting before you kind of move up to higher ticket price points. And for me, I had loads of limiting beliefs, right? But I started to interview and catch a little momentum. So I was like, it's worth a try. And then people would hit me up and they'd say, hey, can you help me with my brand? Can you help me getting on podcasts? Can you help me with this? And so little by little, just the brand built demand, right? Brand builds demand. And so, like, that allowed me to, originally have a 2.5K coaching program. And then it moved up from 2.5K to 5K to 10K to 25K plus in a span of, I believe it was 16 to 18 months, like a year and a half, from my 2.5K to a 25K. And here's the best part, is that the deliverables were exactly the same.
Wow.
It was 10x the price, but 100% the same deliverable. The only difference was now the weight of the advice as my brand grew was higher, right? Because people pay for leverage, right? What a brand is leverage. And I realized, not in some BS or fluffy way, but hey, the bigger numbers you can prove for yourself, the bigger numbers you have insight to prove you can help others with, the bigger numbers they'll pay you. And so little by little, it kind of literally worked, where literally it went from 2.5K to 25K, and then now one-on-ones kind of go up and people can do different types of things. But for the most part, like, that's kind of how it grew, dude.
So you're saying the more that you developed yourself, the brand, the people that you were interviewing, people would pretty much associate you at, let's say, a higher level in a way that it'll drive more business towards you, right? How and you mentioned that you kind of started the brand before starting the business itself. Like, how would it be different if somebody already has a business and they're trying to build a brand?
Yeah. What do you mean? How would it be different? What part of it?
Yeah. So in the beginning, for example, there's two things, right? Number one, how can they make money from this, or would it be beneficial for them to start it as a beginner? And then number two, like, is there any leverage from building your business first and building your brand first, or should you do it the other way around?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I mean, I think most people find themselves plagued with that question when they're already in a position where there's only one answer, right? Um, and I think if you don't have capital to build a personal brand, you'll get stuck.
That's kind of where I was going. That is true. So the cool thing about business, I guess, is you do have something that injects cash into your personal brand, and then you can start like what's a way that you can start building your personal brand? I know you mentioned content being
Well,
a
you gotta,
distribution source, right?
yeah, you gotta leverage what revenue you do have, right? Like for example, even if you only have $100, make that $100 last. Find somebody you can find a VA for $5 an hour. That's 20 hours. Maybe it takes them 20 hours to put together a 30-day plan for you for $100, and $100 isn't just one editor for one video. So start with what you have. I always did that. If I had $100, $200, $500, whatever I had, I just reinvested into the brand. Um, and it's not so much that you said something interesting. You're like, oh, people will think or people will associate that you're bigger. A lot of people, when worded like that, can get the connotation that it implies it's fake or facade or it's uh, exaggerated. But the reality is like when you're with organic traffic and organic audiences, the most powerful asset that people have in the online space is an audience, and so that's the value. It's not some people will associate you higher. You literally are higher because you have access to more people, which societally and in business puts you in a higher leverage position to create opportunity. And I think that's what's underneath a lot of what drives, you see PBD, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet. A lot of these guys already had success before social media. And now when you add the gasoline of social media to it, it just ends up being this thing that grows more and more. So yeah, I think it's about starting with what you know, letting it grow, leveraging what you have. And if you look at all these guys in the personal branding space, they all do different things, right? Play to your strengths, right? This 100-day challenge is me being raw and imperfect. The podcast, everyone in the world gave me advice on what to do, what not to do. In the end, when I did it selfishly my way, it worked great, right? So like you have to lean into your inclinations and know the advice you're getting and the people you're trying to model, if it actually makes sense, and remove friction. I think most of building a personal brand is removing friction from the limiting beliefs as to why. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't even build a personal brand because they just don't like how they look on camera, which I get it, but it's like, but see, then you overcompensate that. Like for me, I have a channel where I've got millions of views, and I've been like, oh man, I don't want to do a channel where it's like this, low production value, whatever. But it feels so good. I didn't quantify how good it would feel in the ROI of having a free place to share this info with. So maybe they're like, well, it's weird. Why is Omar looking back so much? Or why is this? But because it's authentic to me, it's sustainable. And I think most people need to try things that are sustainable to them. If you do that, everyone grows different, right? If you do that, PBD or Ed My Letter, whatever, whoever you look up to, or whatever kind of brand you want to build for your business or whatever it is, like every single person who succeeded started with simple things. Even Mr. Beast, who now has $1 million budgets for his videos, is one of his first ones is literally saying Logan Paul 100,000 times with his camera with the phone on his laptop. So you have to start with where you're at. I think a lot of people try to start at step 16 instead of step one, and they spend 16 months working on step one. When in reality, if you just if you have $20, just fine, put out one video, 20, and just the momentum of that, I think, is what builds a great brand. So I know that was a long rant, but that for me would be the psychology you asked about beginners. That I think beginners should kind of.
You mentioned you had some limiting beliefs in the beginning, right?
Yeah, building a personal brand, absolutely.
What were some of those?
I don't like how I look on camera. I feel, what am I talking about? I'm rambling all over the place. I move my hands too much. Do I go on long tangents? What will people think? Um, you know, and it's funny because we have coaching clients that we work with and help, and like, dude, they've done such amazing things, and like, it's funny because on those I don't care because I'm just like in full service. But I think anytime there's a pressure of an audience or people watching, it naturally makes even me right. I've had interviews like in a kind of weird way. It's easier for me to interview a billionaire and get a million views looking at him and caring about the presence of that moment than it would be looking at the camera into a lens, right? That's something I got to work on. And also try things, right? Like I tried talking head videos. They're okay, but I love stuff like this, you know? So this is, you're seeing me experiment in real time, right?
Conversational.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Play to your strength, but play to your strength. If you're not conversational, fine. If you're awkward, play to that. If you're like, play to your strengths and let the volume trim the fat. Don't try to logically trim the fat. Let the volume trim the fat.
Dude, changing the subject a little bit because I'm still curious about this.
Yeah.
Talking about it. When building your personal brand, I know you mentioned you made multiple seven figures from it. I'm curious, like how much have you personally have invested? Because I feel like when you're a normal person, you're thinking about building your own personal brand. You're like, how do I even build one? Well, you can do images, you can do video, whatever on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you, what medium did you take? I guess
Oh,
interviews, and then like how much do you think you actually put in terms of like
Oh, my
editors and
God.
stuff? I'm curious.
Oh my God. I would say north of $500,000, which it's probably way more.
Cash.
Yeah,
Right.
cash invested. Um, I don't even realize that. But if you factor that over the course of 4 or 5 years, and then the first year was a little slower, and then it ticks up and it's ramping up, say, I mean, it kind of makes sense. But the main thing is that it paid for itself. It's not like it created new streams of revenue to pay for itself, right? Like I just put out an interview like 2 weeks ago and it did like 7K in revenue, right? Like 7.2K in just AdSense alone. And so like these little wins of cash flow that add up like that start to compound, and then you have affiliate deals at scale, and then you could have sponsors, and then but you start with, like, for me, when I first started with my podcast, I was like super insecure about like why would anybody sponsor me? That was a limiting belief. So what I did to rid that insecurity, I said, hey, I found a video and editor who said, hey, he'll film the interview with Grant Cardone. When I drove to Beverly Hills to pitch Grant Cardone for a podcast randomly because I saw he was there on his IG story, crazy story. I pitch him. Grant says, okay. I find a videographer and editor for $550. And then I didn't have $550. So I negotiated a net 30 invoice to pay him in 30 days. And then I found a sponsor. And because I was insecure about asking for money or making money off it, I just said, hey, transparently, here's the invoice from the video production thing. Would you be down to sponsor this video for $550? And so, boom, that grew my confidence with sponsors. And now it's easy the next time I talk to a sponsor to ask for $750 and make a little profit. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of playing these incremental games, and then we've gone to the tune of doing, multiple six-figure sponsorship deals. And so, but it starts with what you know. And depending on your industry, you might go, okay, this is great for you. You have a podcast, but will it work for me here or there in this industry? And the truth is, absolutely. I mean, you see people build personal brands in quote unquote boring industries. You look at dairy, you look at cyber, you look at solar, you look at digital marketing. They turn that into the funnest thing in the world. Looks like Disneyland, right? So it's a skill that it's the digital business card. It's a skill that all of us will 100% experience the benefit of doing, and 100% experience the consequence of not doing. And so to me, it may have cost me $500,000 of what I've invested to my brand and growing, but I would argue that the opposite would be more expensive. It would be more expensive to not build a personal brand in terms of opportunity, income, connections, network. Like, dude, building a personal brand, I could literally, like, it trips me out. And I say this humbly, like, in my phone book, I can reach out to my Let or Cardone or DM Patrick Bet David, and we do multiple interviews and all these different things. Like, it creates leverage. I met Ryan Garcia, the fighter, the boxer, in the airport at LAX, and I had interviewed Patrick Bet David. So somehow, by luckily getting Pat initially, formed a good bond with him and his team. Did an interview again, then had that asset when I showed Ryan. The social proof is there, and so in 2 or 3 high leverage moves, I'm in with PBD and Ryan Garcia, right? And the compounded effect of stuff like that would not be possible without having some kind of a brand, some kind of a leveraged asset.
I was thinking it's roughly like about 500K is roughly about a house's price, essentially. It's like
Yeah.
you build that asset.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
You know,
I didn't even think about that.
but I like
Well,
it.
we did donate like 30,000 to build houses in Mexico.
Yeah.
So there you go. So we're working on making sure everybody wins.
So yeah, I mean, what would you kind of advise, the person to that doesn't have a personal brand and wants to start a personal brand? Maybe they have a business, as of now. What was stopping you? Like, what could they actually apply? What are some steps?
Yeah, like practical steps. That's a great question. I would say start a 10-day challenge or 30-day challenge. I'm a little bit of a crazy person, so I'm doing a 100-day challenge with these YouTube series, just raw and imperfect 100 videos on whatever I want. I'm inspired to share, no agenda. And I would say start with a 10-day challenge, start with a 30-day challenge. Do something every day that scares you. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel with no editor, no crazy anything. I'm just going to be authentic. I'm going to share stuff. If I get 0 views, sounds great to me. And do it for 30 days. Because in the process of doing it, just like in the process of me doing this video, I mean, we're almost done with this recording, and in my head, I'm like, oh, we should have said this, should have said that. But I'm like, you know what? I'll get to it tomorrow, right? Like, give yourself the opportunity to let volume work its magic. I think a lot of us try to outthink volume, and I don't think outthinking volume in the long run is ever the right way to win. I think put in the volume, and the sooner you do, the sooner you reap the benefits. So I would recommend people do a 10-day challenge. Hey, every day I'm going to try posting for 10 days or 30 days on either LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is for you. Say, hey, I'm going to do this. I recommend at least 30 and do it. Feel the fear and do it anyways. And watch what happens. Watch how that pressure, even if you don't know what you're doing, the pressure of having to, right? Like me filming a video today, I wasn't sure what to talk about. Me and Frankie were having a cool, inspired combo, even though we're off the cuff and ranting here. Maybe you thought it was lame and you're like, oh, this is whack, or maybe you think it's dope. And if you did, make sure to subscribe. It would mean the world to me. If you could actually do it, I'll give you a sec if you want to. No, but seriously, would love to subscribe. But yeah, it's like me testing. And so I recommend people test stuff, pick a platform, try for 30 days. And then after 30 days, just iterate, do more of what works, less of what doesn't, see what felt good, see what got a response, and you'll build momentum. And that's the only way you will ever do it anyways. Trust me. The only question is if you're going to put out those 30 next posts over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, or next 30 days. So new decisions, new life. Same is true with a personal brand. It's true in business, true in everything, right?
Love it.
Good.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was off the cuff, but I'm doing more of these. If you guys have any questions for me, make sure to ask them below. I'm going to get better and better at these raw and perfect videos. We're just flowing here. So if it was all over the place, thanks for being all over the place with us. I hope it helps you in your life or business. And we might even be bringing on some of the cool coaching calls. I get to coach and consult 6, 7, 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs in so many interesting industries. We may be working on something where we're going to be able to share some of those live here on the channel. So stay tuned for those. And also, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, you can apply in the description down below. You can also join our free SKOOL communities, as well as follow me on all my free social media down below. Until next time, look forward to seeing you kill it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out. Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Go build that personal brand, guys.